All right, boom, guys. Listen, we're back, and today we're talking about how to polarize an audience. I'm going to give you guys a kind of a case study that I encountered the other day, and this is something I've known for a while through the content that I've posted. If you don't know what I do, then go to my Instagram, Notorious Nico. You can find all the stuff I do there. Also, I have another YouTube channel, but let's get into this, right? Personal branding, advanced stuff. This is all about how to lose followers and still stay on top. Because we're creating a brand here, we're creating something way more deeper than just building an offer, right? And, you know, just sitting down and trying to monetize. We're trying to build something extremely, something that really resonates with people. And this is really crucial for that, something that people really remember. I went into my Insights tab on my Instagram, right? And, because I always do that, I check up on the insights, and it takes around 2 days to show the actual insights themselves. So if you do the content, then you won't be able to see the insights until like 2 days or something. And I noticed a bit of a spike downwards in that I lost like 123 followers lost in a day, right? So you'll see the picture on the right side, that is the total unfollow count. And then we have the overall count, which is follows plus unfollows, which equated to 80. So that means I had around, 40? Yeah, 40 follows for that day, right? So if you're posting consistently, then you can look at these metrics and you can do as I did and ask the question, what the flip happened on July the 7th? July the 7th, right? That's what we're looking at. Really seeing this spike, and it's like, okay, what could possibly have happened on July the 7th? And so I went through my reels, I went through the content, right? And this is what we found. I played a video right here that I posted on July the 7th. Maybe you can spot why. This was the reel that was posted on July the 7th. As you can see by the title, Truth That Hits, Followers That Dip. This, you see, the thing is that it's quite obvious what has happened here through this piece of content, right? You can probably look at the list too and find the one that probably got people to, you know, unfollow. So you can pick one, right? I'm looking at it's the 7th one. That's probably the one, right? If what you're saying, right, because this is a controversial piece of content, right? In the fact that I'm calling out all this stuff that might be normal, right? This is how controversy works. You're calling this out, oh, you're challenging the status quo of a certain thing. And this, of course, triggered that kind of defense mechanism in some of the people, and they decided to press the unfollow button. That's kind of how this works. And you will have people on your journey through creating a brand, a true voice online, where people will click that unfollow button. So this is how we make sure that when people do that we still stay on top, like mentioned. It's supposed to say if it is true here, right? What I mean by that is that this needs to be congruent with what you mean. And we'll get back to that in a second. To just sit there and spout stuff that you don't believe will never work in this case. In this case, I believe everything on this list. And I don't give too much context on it because you get people in the comments, they start to talk, and they start to question it, and you don't give them too much to work with. You let them kind of answer the questions. You're kind of vague in your responses. We'll get back to like engagement in another video and how to kind of spike that through those metrics, and that's to kind of optimize, right? To give us the best chance of success with a piece of content, and depending on the content, of course. So with this, right, controversy isn't a problem. Misalignment is. We're going to get back to that in a second, but we have some other pieces of content too where we're kind of being controversial. We'll take a look at those right here. Boom. How do you know this is a girl's bedroom, right? You might think, hey, it's the dresses over here, right? No, you're wrong. It's the ironing board. I've never seen someone who's big and strong be a complete liberal pussy. Once you understand strength, once you understand being capable, you start to hate tolerance because you understand that in order to build strength. So you saw those reels too? Maybe you get a bigger sense for what this actually means. So what does that mean, like polarizing an audience? What does that actually mean? So it means separating viewers. That's what it means. Because once you start creating content, you get all these people in. Different people, they look at you differently. They look at what you're putting out there in a different way. Maybe you get, you know, someone who just looks at your content because you're handsome. Maybe you get someone who looks at your content because what you're saying is valuable. Like you get all these people in there, right? And what you're doing with this is basically you're cutting it straight down the middle of it. Either you're in or you're out. And this is super powerful because it's basically giving people an ultimatum. That's basically what it is, right? And not all people, right, are going to take that ultimatum. They're going to decline, right? But what you're doing is filtering out the right people, because that's why this needs to be true. Do not be controversial about things that you don't really stand for, because now you're filtering out wrong people. You're filtering out wrong people, and it's very important to be sure that this is something you stand by, and this is not something you stand for, and it's congruent, which we'll get back to. But pushing out lukewarm people it's how we're doing that. So we're creating this. So this is kind of the trade-off that we're doing. Like, we're pushing out the lukewarm people. We're pushing out people who aren't real followers, right? They're just there for some reason. Who knows, right? Maybe they're not even following your content that much. You get more people that are even more dedicated. So this is the trade-off. And here's the thing, like, that's much more exponential than having all these numbers, these lukewarm people just hovering. First of all, a lot of these lukewarm people, they might not even be engaging with your content. They might not be liking. So you might these ratios of likes to views to comments, they might be really, really off if you have a lot of lukewarm audience of people who don't actually care that much. You see a lot of this with these bigger business guru guys. They have like hundreds of thousands of followers, but don't give a shit about their content, right? They don't give a shit, right? And they probably think they have a personal brand, a lot of these, bigger people, and they do to some degree, right? But because they're selling and talking about this stuff all the time, right? No, people just, it's so boring. People just tune out eventually. Because they don't, as we mentioned in the other video where I talked about how to build an actual personal brand, not this, regurgitated bullshit of what a personal brand actually is, then there's more dynamic, there's more dynamicism, is that even a word? There's more levels to the personality that people are looking at the screen, so it creates intrigue, it creates question in the viewer's mind, right? So this is why this is so important, because the trade-off in the long run is much greater in that you have people that really stick with you, and then all the people that don't stick with you, they will unfollow you, right? Which is good. And here's another thing, right? Even though they unfollow you, that doesn't mean they don't follow what you do. They might be so pissed off at the content you made that they might sit there and be like, oh, this guy posted that again. And they might, send this to someone else. Yeah, oh, screw this guy, right? And so you get another share. Who knows? I kind of went over this already, why this is good. I'll go into this a bit further, right? When people see something that really resonates with them, and it's spoken out, right? When you have the courage to say something that people might have on their mind, they relate much more to you through you doing that. And that's kind of where the power is. You see this online a lot these days, right? There's a lot of controversial topic coming up. I've been seeing that recently, and kind of how we're seeing this this term is called the great noticing, for example. That's a kind of an effect of kind of like splitting it down the middle of trying to polarize an audience. There's people who resonate with that, there's people who don't resonate with that, and that's fine. And aside from politics and aside of topics here that we're talking about, this is simply for branding and kind of like viewer psychology. So I'm not talking about politics or anything right here. This is just for your purposes. Whatever you decide to do with this, whichever direction you decide to go with this, politically or with interests, you can do that, and that's up to you. I'm not here to judge you based on that. So I have my views, you have your views, they're completely fine. It makes you not just memorable, but undeniable. Because there's a lot of content out there that you remember, but there's not a lot of content out there who you would like stick up for. That's the key here. We're trying to create something way more than just like, oh, he's a funny dude, he creates sketches. It's like, you want people to be like, ride or die. That's kind of what we're doing here. So mutual conviction, as you can see on the last line there. I don't even know if that's a word, but that's why conviction is too, and speaking the truth about what you're actually meaning through all this is so important. You're aligning like these thoughts that happen, that are inside of the mind of the viewer, and you're putting it on the screen, and it's like, oh my God, that's exactly what I'm thinking. Like, that has a really, truly profound effect on the mind of the viewer. So that's the beauty of this, and hopefully that makes it much more clear to you. So there's some rules with there's some do's and don'ts, and this is basically how to polarize with precision. Because I've made a really bad mistake with this sometimes, or not really that bad, but because of my genius intellect, I was able to recognize that what I was doing. The video is still out there, I believe. I don't think I deleted it. It's like just a reel on Instagram. Do not try and force controversy. If you're out of content ideas, don't just make something that's controversial in order to, or if you're like lacking engagement, don't just pick up the camera and start saying some controversial take by random. Okay, first of all, we're going to get back to how to like record stuff that's authentic and in an authentic voice. But if you're doing it for those reasons, people are going to notice it. They're going to notice that you're just saying this stuff, and you're just spouting this stuff in order to try and get engagement. And you don't want to do that, because if people see it, boom, that's cringe, right? It's super cringe. There's a lot of people, you know, trying to do that right now. I'll show you a picture on the next slide of a guy. You start kind of neutral, right? And you reveal the edge over time with this polarization, right? You don't. There's very few people who go out there. First thing they do is just start, you know, blasting controversy all over. You want to kind of like build it up, and it's like cut down the middle. Boom. You probably recognize both of these people in the photo. No, I mean the bottom photo, right? Andrew and Tristan. And you see the guy in the top, right? This guy's name is Jason Woho. I'm good at remembering names. It's not the fact that his content is really good. It's just the fact that I'm really, really good at remembering names. And this guy, right, he made some content about, oh, what's this? This is funny, right? It was funny, but it got a lot of people like pissed off because he said something about, I'm gonna do this, right, because I have a McLaren and all this stuff. It made people cringe. So this guy's skinny, his voice sounds like a nerd, right? And so he has no proof except for a car, which might be rented, that he has any capacity in himself. So that doesn't mean that you need to be huge or a bulky bodybuilder in order to speak controversy. It's about in the context of what you're trying to do, right? And I'm sure he's a great guy. I'm sure he's just, of course it worked, right? Because I remember the video, but it doesn't work for the reason we wanted to do, right? Because here's the thing, right? You can be controversial in order to just gain views, right? But that doesn't mean you take down your pants and, you know, swing your cock around on camera. That doesn't mean that, right? Okay, if that was the case, then anyone could do that. But that's not what controversy is. It's not just to spike views. It's to get people to actually follow in and to like really hold the swords with you, right? So that's the difference, because this guy, sure, gets a lot of views, gets a lot of people talking. But would people follow him? If you're trying to do a controversial take, for example, that all who train in the gym are complete pussies, and you're skinny, you might get a lot of views, but no people are going to follow you. No people are going to follow you. Maybe the skinnies, right? But is that who you want to attract? Maybe. That's something to consider, right? This is where context matters. This is why nuance matters. This is how you need to think about this stuff. This is what I help people, you know, when I help people with their content, I help people think of these things, right? How they're actually portraying themselves through the content. And check the link below for more about that. But if you're trying to posture without a background, that rarely works. Unless it's obvious satire. This is why comedians do a really good job with controversy, by the way. There's a lot of comedians out there who do this really well, because it's obvious. And so for this, you know, guy, or a lot of these people, because it's not just this dude, right? This was many years ago even. But there's a lot of people, a lot of young guys right now. I have this thing, this is slop content, okay? I'm going to teach you guys slop content. Maybe I'll do a full video on how to do slop content. You hold your phone right here, and you pick it up like that, and you write some, you know, garbage text, right? With your disgusting face on it. And that just is some controversial take, right? I do slop content sometimes too. There's ways of doing it. But this is where you're going to see this stuff. All these, you know, little boys trying to run their mouth, right? Doing slop content, trying to do controversial takes. It doesn't work. There's no proof, because that's all they're doing. All they're doing is slop content. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. These people who follow that stuff, they're not ride or die followers either. So you're not building a brand. Maybe you're getting viewership, maybe you're getting followers, but you're not building a brand. Big difference. And that's what these guys in the bottom right have done really well, right? They've built, you know, phenomenal personal brands, truly. Here's the big thing, right? If you try to be controversial, do not polarize your own tribe. Do not make the mistake of creating content that polarizes the people who are already like ride or die with you, because they're gonna be confused. They're gonna be super confused. They might even just be. This is the last example I'm gonna make on this video too, actually, about that. I remember I made this reel one time that was, I said something about, see, people are so focused on form these days or something. That's the reel in which polarizes is bad. If you want to go to my Instagram and find it, you can go ahead and do that just to like analyze. Since I was having a lot of fitness followers, not the message itself wasn't the polarizing, it was the way it was portrayed. And so that doesn't work, because now I'm basically calling out the core audience. And so it wasn't the biggest deal, right? It wasn't the biggest deal, and I was able to recognize that really, really early on. I was like, okay, no, that doesn't actually work, and this is, how I've, become such an expert in this, and kind of how every single thing you say is like it creates a signal in the viewer's mind. So what you want to do is you want to take direct shots, right, at outsiders, people outside who don't resonate. So when let's do an example, right? People who, Pepsi versus Coca-Cola, right? And Pepsi is your tribe. Your tribe is Pepsi. Then you want to take the shots at the Coca-Cola guys, okay? These are the bad guys. The Coca-Cola guys are the bad guys. Damn, these Coca-Cola guys, they don't even know what's coming. Because us Pepsi boys, we're the winners. We're the real winners here, right? This is how you want to speak. Now, we're not polarizing our own. We're not saying that, for example, we don't want to talk about how the aspartame is really good. Aspartame is the best, right? Coca-Cola doesn't even have aspartame. If I start calling out aspartame and there's aspartame in the Pepsi, boom, confusion. I hope that helps. Kind of random example because I have some Pepsi here, but yeah. And then you can say, like, for controversy's sake, you can say that if I say that aspartame are for beta males, right? And there's aspartame in the Pepsi, that won't work, right? But if I say it about, like, we don't have any aspartame in our thing, just like these other idiots, right? So now I'm unifying the tribe, right? And if I was doing the opposite, I would confuse them. I would alienate them. Like, what? I have aspartame in the Pepsi. Well, all this stuff, right? So you should know, like, who you're speaking for and against. A lot of that it's not that you need to know exactly your core audience, not at all. It needs to be congruent with what you believe, your values, and that can change over time, of course. It's very important to have a second take at least. Like, is this what we represent? Mike Thurston, I was on a call with Mike Thurston, and it was this like group coaching call. Mike Thurston and his videographer. Mike Thurston said something, which was that before you post everything, you can do like a three-step checklist. I don't remember exactly what it was, but one of them was, does this align with the core values? Or what was it? There's like, if there are three things, if the three core values of what you're trying to portray here, the values of the brand itself, you're trying to create a perception. Does this piece of content align with that? And what would not, if so? So that could be a good checklist, right? If sometimes, okay, maybe you're on the fence. Does this align, does this not? Especially once you're trying to like bend the rules a bit of like kind of what to post and trying something new. That could be something to do, because it's really important to not start alienating people, because you're spending all this time building up a solid viewer base, and if you do this stuff wrong, you're just going to cut that viewer base. You're going to cut all your engagement because everyone thinks you're an asshole. Language is the weapon, okay? Like I said, actually I didn't say this, but I kind of implied it with the aspartame and the Coca-Cola and the Pepsi example. So, and we'll get back to this tweet in a second. Not politics or anything. It was just a good example of personal branding, really. So the language you use, like you use you, we, us, they. When you're making videos, when you're making content, you're saying like, oh, you need to try these 5 exercises, or we tried the 5 best this. Like So the way you refer, I don't know what it's called in English, but when you're saying you're very like. If I say to you, you're here because you want to learn about personal branding, like I'm speaking directly, right? I'm just speaking directly to you, and I can say something that like, we are both here because we're trying to get better at personal branding. That maybe not be as direct, right? And so there is a difference between how you use all of this. And so when I was like, for example, when I was making a reel about how form is really, really, really overrated, how it's not that important really, because it's not. I think I used the language you, since I was messaging to like the core, like the kind of the tribe, like the kind of core audience. It was too direct, right? So I could have split it down the middle and used different language in that, like, we, the winners, like, we don't care this much, while The science guys, the science-based trainers, that's all they care about. Listen, here we do it much better. We do it. We don't care about form. We still make the best gains. Something like that would be much better than what I said in that video. Something just like that. But not because I'm still saying the same message, right? Maybe I'm still as controversial. I'm saying that form isn't that bad, but I'm using different words. And that's like you, they do that. We do this. You're the winner, right? Because you're watching this video, while they, the outsiders, they don't get these personal branding secrets that you get. Huh? You see what I did there? See, now we're marginalizing, right? Because you're here and you found this secret video. This is language, and that's a huge difference too. No one has ever told you this. If you want to call out using the you, then just be careful. Make sure that it's not targeting, like I said, with you need to split it straight down the middle. If it's skewed off to the side, you might run into confusion, especially if you're down the side to the wrong side, to the people who actually resonate with your stuff already. Another word for kind of how you create, like what is created through this, is a versus dynamic, which is something, if you know, there's a guy called like Hamza. He makes like videos in his bathrobe or something in his room. He had this thing which is like it was like a Jeffrey versus Adonis. And so that's a versus dynamic, and that's actually him splitting it down the middle, versus like, which is really good case for this. Like, you don't want to be one of those, the Jeffreys, right? You want to be the Adonis, right? And since you're here watching this video, I'm going to teach you how to do that. You can become one of the Adonises, right? You can be on my side. That's kind of what it was doing there. It was really good, a really powerful versus dynamic. And I have a friend too. He. In the beginning, right, he was finding these words, because you can do this too. You can kind of label the enemy, and you can label your followers. You can label the enemy as Rotten Tomatoes, right? And you can label the guys you want in the tribe as the alliance or something. The alliance members. We don't do this, for example, right? And you can say that Rotten Tomatoes, they don't even know what's coming. We in the alliance, blah, 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 right? And one of the guys I was helping out with this, right? He had this term, which is a term for people who have no control over their wives, essentially, which was this guy's case. And he was using it too liberally, right? He was putting it there and there and there and there, like in random stories and stuff. And I told him, listen, if you want to use this word right, if you want to use this, like create this like really solid verse dynamic, like it's not bad what you're doing that right now, but it would be way more powerful if you were a bit more conservative with when you were using it. So it's like the only time you're seeing the word or this word, right, is when you're seeing the bad guys, right? When you're seeing this happen, when you're seeing what you don't want, right? That's when you're seeing this word. And so people start associating it with something bad. And that's how you over time, dun, repetition. This word means bad, okay? Because if you're putting it everywhere, right, then it's like confusion. Like if you let's go back to the Jeffrey and the Adonis example. If you were to blend those, right? And you put like the Adonis label on something that should be a Jeff label, then it's like, wait, what? People are confused. So just if you're trying to create that, which is super powerful, if you can monetize this, by the way, I don't talk about monetization, but it's very easy to monetize in versus dynamic. And someone else who has a very powerful versus dynamic going on is Mr. Donald J. Trump, right? We're not talking politics here, but he has his MAGA thing, the Make America Great Again or something. That is a really good versus dynamic. Think about that. We in the MAGA, right? We have this, the MAGA, then you have Democrats or the deep state or whatever, right? All this stuff, the hoax, So that's the versus dynamic. And so here we have a big mistake that had just been done, right? This is one of the biggest blunders of what truly is a personal brand, right? Like Donald J. Trump, the personal brand itself. So he basically says that everyone who believes in the Jeffrey Epstein case, which is ongoing now, right? A lot of stuff, especially in the online news scene about that. He's basically calling all of them past supporters. Or if you believe in this, you're a past supporter. So you see what he's done here, right? Because he obviously know that a lot of people care for this, but he's decided to cut the sword down the middle of all the people who believe in this, and that doesn't work. Now he's cutting way like it's not cutting in the middle. He's cutting off to the side. I'm like, most people think like believe in this stuff. Like, oh, there is a list, for example, right? This is not about the list or anything. It's just about a lot of people believe in this stuff, and now we're saying like everyone who believes in this, you're not part of this anymore. That's the message he's putting out when you're saying it like that. And so this is a horrible. No, it's a really good example, right? It's a really good example of how to do that horribly. How it's gone horribly wrong. Really insane stuff actually. How kind of like people were saying like he was nuking his audience essentially. And that's kind of what he's doing here. So that's just something to look for. Probably you won't make this big of a mistake. I'll end with this. If you never made anyone unfollow you, you probably never said something or anything worth remembering. Or maybe your content just sucks, all right? But we can sort that out too, all right? If you want to work with me on this, just check the link below, but that's completely up to you. Go check out the other thing, the full guide on personal branding. I have it up in some corner here. I don't really know. But that's it for this video, kind of how to like, not marginalize, but polarize an audience, create controversy. And with this, you should be better off on your personal branding journey, all right? Take care and God bless. Boom.